The Legend of Jigong Chapter 92.
The author's playing this really highly sophisticated game with the reader's expectations here to pull off that kind of tonal whiplash without completely destroying the stakes of the story. I mean, it requires a masterful understanding of pacing.
And psychological tension too, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
because the danger those four heroes face remains completely palpable, even when the narrative just suddenly veers into comedy.
Well, to understand how this works, we really need to look at the immediate stakes. And they could not be higher. We have these four classical martial arts heroes.
Right. Yang Ming, Lara Ming, Chen Liang, and Kung Gui.
Yeah, and they've been captured by an evil Taoist named Hua Qingfeng. He's about to sacrifice them to forge something called the Five Ghost Dark Wind Sword.
A very intimidating name.
Very. But before we get to any kind of rescue or, the laughing bread, I want to look at the meticulous, almost bureaucratic nature of this villain's magic.
It is very specific.
It's so specific. I'm looking at the list of ingredients the text provides for this ritual. It specifically mentions 5 cypress stakes, an 8 immortals table, paper horses, 5 types of grains, root vegetables.
Don't forget the rootless water.
Right. Rootless water, yellow paper, and cinnabar. I mean, I have to admit, for a supposedly terrifying demon-summoning villain, this guy sounds like a stressed-out event planner.
That's a great way to put it.
Is he actually powerful, or is he just a magical bureaucrat?
Well, I see where you're going with that, but I'd argue the bureaucracy is exactly what makes him so dangerous.
Really? How so?
So in a lot of Western fantasy, magic is often portrayed as this innate, wild force, like a wave of a wand or a sudden explosion of willpower, right?
Or like you just have the magic inside you.
Exactly. But in the world of classical Chinese martial arts and fantasy, often referred to as the wuxia or xiangxia genres, magic is deeply procedural.
It's like applied science.
Yes, it's applied science rooted in Taoist cosmology.
So it's less about raw talent and more about just knowing the formula.
Correct. The formula is what anchors the magic to the physical world. Let's break down the items you mentioned, starting with the 5 cypress stakes.
Yeah, a modern listener might wonder, why not oak or pine?
Well, cypress wood, or bo mu in Chinese, is heavily associated with graveyards and tombs in traditional Chinese culture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, its root systems run deep, and it's considered a wood of profound longevity. But more importantly, it's deeply connected to yin.
The dark energy. Right.
Exactly, the dark, negative, earthly energy, as opposed to yang, which is light and active.
So by planting 5 cypress stakes in his courtyard, he isn't just, putting up posts to tie his prisoners to.
No, not at all.
He's actively changing the spiritual architecture of the space.
He is physically anchoring the courtyard to the realm of the dead. He is literally pulling the graveyard into his home.
That is so creepy.
And then you add the 8 immortals table, or Baxian's wall.
Right. That sounds like a magical artifact, but isn't it just a piece of furniture?
It's a very common piece of furniture. It's a traditional square table designed to seat 2 people on each of its 4 sides, making 8 seats total.
So just a normal dining table.
Basically. In domestic life, it's where families eat or host guests. It takes its name from the 8 immortals of Taoist mythology, these legendary figures representing different facets of society.
So why drag a standard dining table out for a human sacrifice?
Because of what the square shape represents structurally. Ancient Chinese cosmology viewed the heavens as round and the earth as square.
Okay.
By using this specific table, Hua Qingfeng is establishing a localized microcosmos. He's taking a symbol of earthly domestic harmony, a family table, and completely perverting it into an altar for the dark arts.
That inversion of the mundane is terrifying. It's almost like using a child's crib as part of a summoning circle.
That's a very apt comparison.
What about the paper horses? I know paper is burned in traditional funerals, but how does it work as a magical mechanic here?
Well, you're referring to the art of zazi, which is the crafting of paper effigies.
Right.
In traditional funerary rites, which are actually still practiced today, paper representations of money, houses, cars, and horses are burned.
To send them to the afterlife.
Exactly. The fire acts as a conduit, a mechanism of transmission. It transfers the essence of the item from the physical world into the spirit world for the deceased to use.
But Hua Qingfeng isn't dead.
No, he's using this same mechanism, but in reverse, or rather as an offensive tool. He isn't sending gifts to ancestors.
What is he doing then?
He is deploying spiritual assets, demonic cavalry, essentially, to secure the perimeter of his ritual and bind the souls he intends to harvest.
I see. So every single item has a functional, almost mechanical purpose. But there's one ingredient that always fascinated me in these old texts, and that's cinnabar.
Yes, Cinnabar.
He uses cinnabar to write the talismans on the yellow paper. I know cinnabar is a bright red mineral, but why is it always the default ink for magic?
So, chemically speaking, cinnabar is mercury sulfide,
Okay.
and its historical significance in China just cannot be overstated. Because of its vibrant blood red color, it was heavily associated with life force, yang energy, and immortality.
Didn't people try to eat it?
Yes, ancient Taoist alchemists spent centuries trying to refine cinnabar into an elixir of life.
Which is incredibly ironic considering mercury is highly toxic.
A tragically toxic irony, yet.
Yeah.
Several Chinese emperors, most notably Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, likely died from mercury poisoning while trying to achieve immortality.
That's wild. But how does it work on paper?
Well, in the context of talismanic magic, you grind the cinnabar into a paste. The yellow paper represents the earthly decree, and the red cinnabar ink represents the divine, highly concentrated yang energy.
So it's not just ink.
No, when Hua Qingfeng writes a command in cinnabar, he isn't just writing words. He is inscribing a spiritual command with radioactive, divine ink.
Then we have the rootless water, which he uses to mix the ink or prepare the altar.
Rootless water is fascinating. It's rainwater caught in a vessel before it ever touches the ground.
So it's completely pure.
Exactly. Because it hasn't made contact with the earth, it hasn't absorbed any mundane dust or earthly yin energy, it is considered perfectly pure.
I imagine it's usually for good magic, though.
Usually it's used for healing potions. But here, the villain weaponizes its purity to act as a perfect, unblemished conduit for his dark spell.
So we have this massive, complex recipe. Yin wood, square earth tables, spiritual transmission paper, toxic divine ink, and uncorrupted water.
It's quite the setup.
It is, and
Right.
my issue with this, and maybe this is just the modern reader in me, is that having to manage all these physical items makes the magic feel like a cumbersome technology.
Yeah.
Doesn't this reliance on physical tools make the sorcerer less intimidating? Like if someone kicks over his cup of rootless water, does the whole spell just fail?
It absolutely makes the magic vulnerable, and that vulnerability is the core structural engine of the plot.
Really?
Yeah, you're touching on a crucial distinction in fantasy literature. If a villain is essentially a god with infinite innate power, there is no logical way for mortal heroes to win.
Right, the story just hits a dead end.
Exactly. But if the magic is a technology, a highly complex machine of inputs and outputs, then the villain is just a dangerous technician operating that machine.
And machines can crash if the inputs are wrong?
Precisely. Hua Qingfeng is forging the 5 Ghost Dark Wind Sword. The entire elaborate setup is calibrated to process exactly 5 human souls. But he only has 4 heroes tied to the stakes.
He's trying to run a program, but he's missing a line of code.
He cannot forge a 4-ghost sword. The mechanics of the ritual simply won't allow it.
It's a binary system.
Yes. He needs 5, or the entire ritual is null and void.
It's fascinating how modern storytelling still relies heavily on this trope. Like, think about the most effective horror movies you know.
Oh, definitely.
The monsters that really stick with you are often the ones bound by strict, seemingly arbitrary rules. Like, you have to pass the cursed videotape to someone else in 7 days, or you die.
The Ring.
Yeah. Or a vampire cannot enter your house unless explicitly invited. Or a demon must be addressed by its true name.
Right.
We find these rules terrifying because they imply a cold, uncaring logic to the supernatural. You aren't just fighting a monster, you are trapped inside a malicious system.
It completely shifts the fear from the unknown to the inevitable.
Yes.
The rules give you the illusion of control, but they also guarantee your destruction if you fail to navigate them perfectly.
Which brings us to the psychological state of our 4 heroes. Because to them, Hua Qingfeng doesn't look like a technician trying to fix a broken spell. He looks like an omnipotent god.
He really does.
Before they are dragged to the stakes, Hua Yunlong begs for their lives. And the Taoist sorcerer just tears his hope to shreds, not with magic, but with information.
He systematically dismantles their morale. He recounts their past actions with impossible accuracy.
Right. Hua Qingfeng looks at these heroes and details exactly how they previously tried to capture him at a place called Sand Dune Ridge.
Down to the smallest detail.
He even knows this incredibly embarrassing, hyper-specific detail, that the hero Yang Ming tried to throw a stone at him in the dark, but missed and hit a local government official by mistake.
Which is pretty funny, but also terrifying for Yang Ming.
Right. The psychological impact of this specific detail is profound. Yang Ming is terrified.
His internal monologue is essentially, how could he possibly know this? Our private conversations in the woods are secret mistakes. This Taoist must have the heavenly eye.
The heavenly eye.
Yeah, he thinks Hua Qingfeng must be a literal deity who can predict the future and view the past.
It's the ultimate terror of omniscience. It's that feeling of being completely magically exposed. Your most private failures are just broadcast to your executioner.
It's completely demoralizing.
But then the text does something brilliant. The narrator pulls back the curtain for the reader and reveals that Hua Qingfeng isn't magically clairvoyant at all.
No, he doesn't have the heavenly eye.
Not even close.
The truth is incredibly mundane and, frankly, a bit pathetic.
It turns out there is this sleazy, opportunistic character named Black Wind Ghost, Zhang Rong.
Zhang Rong.
And Zhang Rong was simply hiding in the bushes at Sand Dune Ridge.
Literally just sitting in the bushes.
He physically eavesdropped on the heroes, heard their plans, watched Yang Ming accidentally throw the stone at the official, and then he just ran back and tattled to the Taoist.
Like a schoolyard snitch.
That's it. That's the grand, terrifying omniscience of the villain. Just a guy hiding in the bushes taking notes.
It's amazing. The author is deconstructing the omnipotent villain trope right in front of us.
Yeah.
In a world where soul-trapping magic, paralyzing spells, and demonic swords are established facts, the text argues that the most effective and dangerous tool a villain possesses is still just basic human espionage.
It's a guy hiding in a kitchen gathering intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
It's the Wizard of Oz, right? You think you are fighting a giant floating head of fire, but it's just an old man pulling levers behind a curtain.
That's a perfect analogy.
And honestly, bring this into a modern context, it feels incredibly relevant to how we view data privacy and technology today.
Oh, that's an interesting angle. How so? The psychological mechanism is similar, but obviously the scale is different.
Think about the way people talk about algorithms today. We are constantly shocked when our phones show us an ad for a hyper-specific brand of shoes we just mentioned in passing to a friend, right?
Oh, all the time.
Our immediate reaction is often mystical. We say, the phone is listening to my microphone, the AI is reading my mind, the algorithm is clairvoyant.
We give it almost supernatural power.
Exactly. We build up this myth of an omniscient, almost magical tech overlord that possesses a modern heavenly eye. But in reality, it's much more mundane, just like Zhang Rong.
It's just a data broker.
A data broker is just tracking our literal digital footsteps. They know you paused on a video about shoes for 3 seconds, they know your GPS location matched a shoe store, and they cross-reference that with your friend's search history.
And then they just sold that intel.
Yes. We attribute magical omniscience to what is essentially just very thorough, unseen, mundane surveillance.
That analogy holds up surprisingly well. Whether it's a Taoist sorcerer or a social media algorithm, the power they wield over you is entirely dependent on the data they gather.
Exactly.
And it highlights a universal theme, the paranoia of being watched. Magic is scary, yes, but the idea that a normal person is always lurking in the shadows, taking notes on your mistakes to sell to your enemies.
That's way worse.
It taps into a much more grounded, primal human vulnerability.
And because our heroes, specifically Yang Ming, don't know the mundane truth, they fully believe they are facing an omnipotent force. They believe they are absolutely, unequivocally doomed.
Because there is no fighting a god.
Right. And this resignation triggers a deeply sad, intimate conversation among the four of them as they are bound to the cypress stakes, waiting for the ritual to begin.
They stop struggling against the physical ropes and begin grappling with the philosophical weight of their impending deaths.
One of the heroes, Chen Liang, hits on the tragedy of their situation. He laments that they are only in this mess because they actively ignored a warning from a legitimate divine figure.
Monk Jigong.
Yes, the legendary monk Jigong had explicitly told them, do not leave the temple for a month or face a fatal danger I cannot save you from.
It wasn't a riddle.
It was a clear, unambiguous instruction, and yet, because one of their group ran off, they followed him right into this courtyard.
This dialogue introduces the massive friction between free will, predestination, and the concept of karma in Chinese literature.
How so?
Well, Jigong, as an enlightened Buddhist figure, can see the karmic threads of the future. By giving them a warning, he implies they have the agency, the free will, to avoid this fate.
All they had to do was sit still for 30 days.
But human nature wouldn't let them.
Exactly.
Their loyalty to their foolish friend forced them to act. They were dragged exactly to the place they were prophesied to die by their own virtues.
It's a tragic paradox.
In acting according to their own nature, which is to protect their brother, they walk straight into the jaws of a fate they were warned about. It asks you, the reader, is fate a destination you are forced to travel to? Or is fate simply the inevitable result of your own personality?
Wow. And as that realization sets in, the reality of death crushes Yang Ming. It's actually heartbreaking to read.
It is very poignant.
The other heroes try to be stoic. They say, well, we don't have parents or wives, so dying isn't a huge deal for us. They can embrace a somewhat monastic detachment.
Right.
But Yang Ming agonizes. He mourns the family he's going to leave behind. An elderly mother with white hair, a young wife, an infant child. He is carrying the crushing weight of earthly attachments.
Yang Ming is deeply rooted in Confucian ideals, which creates a sharp contrast with the Taoist magic happening around him and the Buddhist warnings of Jigong.
How does Confucianism play into his grief?
In Confucian philosophy, filial piety, the devotion and care for one's parents, is the foundational virtue of society.
Okay.
Dying before your parents is considered a profound failure because you can no longer serve them in their old age or offer proper ancestral rights.
That makes it so much heavier.
Yang Ming's death isn't just a personal end. It is a catastrophic failure of his fundamental duty to his family. His grief is societal, not just personal.
So to cope with this unbearable failure, the heroes do something fascinating. They reframe their execution.
Yes, they do.
They try to find a grim, poetic solace by referencing the Peach Garden Oath from the classic historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
The use of the Peach Garden Oath here is laden with heavy, bitter irony.
For those who might not know, could you give a little context on that?
Sure. Romance of the Three Kingdoms is one of the 4 great classical novels of Chinese literature set at the end of the Han Dynasty.
It's massive.
Very famous. In it, 3 legendary heroes, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei, swear an oath of brotherhood in a peach garden. They declare that, while they were not born on the same year, month, or day, they ask only to die on the same year, month, and day.
It's the ultimate romanticized ideal of classical heroism. It's the standard by which all brotherhoods in these stories measure themselves.
Yes, but historically, and within the Three Kingdoms narrative itself, they fail to achieve this.
Oh, they do?
Yes, Guan Yu is captured and executed. Zhang Fei is assassinated by his own men later. Liu Bei dies of illness after a disastrous military campaign to avenge them.
Oh, wow.
Their deaths are separated by years in tragedy. They never achieve the beautiful, synchronized death they swore to.
But here, tied to the Cypress stakes, Yang Ming points out the dark irony. He looks at his friends and says, look, those great heroes couldn't manage to die on the same day, but we are actually going to achieve it. We are going to die on the exact same year, month, day, and time.
He is claiming a victory that is utterly hollow.
It's an incredible psychological coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
When you are faced with a completely senseless, gruesome tragedy, you are literally about to become magical fuel for a sword, the human mind desperately scrambles for a narrative that makes the pain mean something.
You need it to mean something.
Yang Ming is trying to take this pathetic, helpless execution and paint it with the brush of epic historical fulfillment. He's saying, we aren't victims. We are succeeding where the greatest heroes of antiquity failed.
It's the only way he can make it psychologically bearable to close his eyes and wait for the knife.
It demonstrates how deeply narrative and myth penetrate the human psyche. The stories we tell ourselves act as shields against the terror of reality.
Yang Ming is using the cultural myth of the Three Kingdoms as armor against the very real terror of the 5 Ghost Arc Windsword.
So we have this quiet, devastating moment of tragic brotherhood. The heroes have accepted their poetic fate. The tension is at its absolute peak. Hua Qingfeng steps up to the altar to begin the ritual.
But remember that missing line of code.
The bug in the software.
The ritual is short one soul. The mechanics demand a 5th victim to compile the spell.
Right. Hua Qingfeng realizes he is stuck. He has all this rootless water and cinnabar prepared, but only 4 guys. And his apprentice, Zhang Tiangrui, casually suggests a horrific bureaucratic solution.
Just horrifying.
He says, hey, you know who's hanging around in the kitchen eating our food right now? Zhang Rong, the informant. Just grab him.
It's a chillingly callous moment. There is no loyalty among the wicked.
Then at all.
Zhang Rong has exhausted his usefulness by delivering the information, so he is immediately reclassified from asset to raw material.
Wow, raw material. They paralyze Zhang Rong, drag him out of the kitchen, and tie him to the 5th empty stake.
The irony is rich.
Zhang Rong is screaming, begging for his life, reminding them that he's the one who helped them. But the villain doesn't care. Now, the way the ritual targets its victims is basically a game of magical roulette.
A deadly game.
Hua Qingfeng draws a talisman, sticks it on the tip of his sword, sets it on fire, and tosses it high into the air. Whoever the burning paper lands on is the first victim to be harvested.
Talk about suspense.
And as fate would have it, the very first talisman floats down and lands directly on the head of the eavesdropper, Zhang Rong.
This sequence is a masterclass in the concept of karmic blowback, or cosmic retribution.
Oh, completely.
Zhang Rong thought he was the smartest person in the story. He thought by betraying the heroes, by offering intelligence to the evil Taoist, he would secure safety for himself.
He thought he was playing the game.
Exactly. He tried to hide in the safety of the villain's shadow. But that specific action, placing himself inside the villain's compound, in his kitchen, is exactly the logistical requirement that puts him on the sacrificial altar.
He literally put himself on the chopping block.
His perceived safety was the direct mechanism of his doom.
And the execution itself is visceral. I mean, the text doesn't shy away from the gore, but it uses the gore for a specific thematic purpose.
Yes, it's not just blood for blood's sake.
The apprentice steps up and stabs Zhang Rong in the chest. When the blade goes in, the text describes 5 distinct streams of toxic, foul energy erupting from his chest.
It specifically lists them.
Right. Yin, poison, damage, ruin, and ruthlessness.
To understand this, we have to look closely at the physiological mapping of morality in classical Chinese thought, specifically within traditional Chinese medicine and Taoist internal alchemy.
How does that work?
Well, this isn't just a gory horror movie detail. It is a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality. In this cultural framework, the physical organs are not just biological pumps or filters.
Right. They mean something more.
They are the literal seats of emotions, soul fragments, and moral states.
Because the text goes even further. After the gases vent out of his chest, the apprentice physically cuts out Zhang Rong's heart and holds it up for inspection.
Yes. And the description is highly specific. They observe that his heart is full of little rotten holes, and it doesn't possess a single good intention.
A good intention.
The literal translation from the text notes a lack of a good heart hole.
A heart hole.
Yes. This references the ancient concept of Zhen, the heart mind. The heart was believed to have apertures or passages that allow for moral clarity, the flow of vital kin, and true understanding of the world.
Oh, that's fascinating.
A legendary sage, for instance, is often described in folklore as having a heart with 7 open, perfectly clear apertures.
So a physically healthy, open heart is a metaphor for a spiritually enlightened soul.
Exactly. Or rather, it's not even a metaphor in the context of the story.
Yeah.
It is a literal biological reality.
Wow.
So when they open Zhang Rong's chest, they don't find a normal human organ. They find the physical evidence of his corrupted soul.
Because it's literally rotten.
His heart is literally rotten. The aperture is clogged with malice and deceit. The 5 toxic gases that vent out yin, poison, damage, ruin, ruthlessness, correspond to the pent-up accumulations of a lifetime of malicious eavesdropping, petty betrayal, and selfishness.
It's just all trapped in there.
His spiritual corruption has quite literally rotted his flesh from the inside out.
It's an incredible piece of world building, but what really shocked me reading this was Yang Ming's reaction. I want to highlight this because it's wild.
It really is.
Yang Ming is tied to a stake right next to Zhang Rong. He is about to be the next person murdered, but he watches Zhang Rong get stabbed. He watches this rotten, toxic heart get ripped out of his chest, and Yang Ming's reaction is essentially, you know what, I can die happy now.
It is a jarring response.
Yeah.
Most people would be screaming in terror after witnessing a vivisection.
Right, but for Yang Ming, seeing Zhang Rong violently murdered provides this intense, dark catharsis.
Because of his history with him.
Exactly. Remember, Yang Ming's entire motivation for leaving his home, the whole reason he is even in this mess, was to hunt down Zhang Rong for a past life.
Yes.
So, seeing his enemy destroyed right in front of him makes him feel like his life's mission is accomplished. He says he will close his eyes and go to the underworld completely satisfied.
It's intense.
I have to ask from a philosophical standpoint, is this justice? I mean, Zhang Rong's being murdered by an even worse villain to fuel a demonic weapon. Is this karmic justice, or is the universe just a chaotic place where bigger monsters eat smaller monsters?
That is one of the central philosophical tensions in vernacular Chinese fiction.
Really?
The universe of Jigong is deeply moral and governed by karma. But karma doesn't always look like a sterile courtroom where a judge bangs a gavel.
Right.
Sometimes karma uses a greater evil to destroy a lesser evil. Hua Qingfeng is undoubtedly a wicked sorcerer, but in this highly specific moment, he acts as the unknowing instrument of karmic retribution against Zhang Rong.
The universe is just correcting itself.
The universe balances its scales, even if the weights it uses are covered in blood. The author is forcing you to confront the reality that justice isn't always clean. Sometimes it's terrifyingly messy and relies on the wicked to punish the wicked.
And speaking of messy, this brings us to the most jaw-dropping shift in the entire text. Zhang Rong is dead. His corrupted soul is presumably captured.
The ritual is proceeding.
Hua Qingfeng burns the second talisman. He tosses it into the air, and it lands squarely on our hero, Yang Ming.
The tension, which had briefly resolved through Zhang Rong's death, is instantly cranked back to its absolute maximum.
Is next.
Yang Ming has accepted his fate. He has watched a man be butchered. It is his turn.
The apprentice, Jiang Tianrui, steps over to Yang Ming. He rips open Yang Ming's shirt, exposing his chest. He raises the bloody sword high in the air.
Here we go.
He drives it down toward Yang Ming's heart, and right at the millisecond, the blade is about to pierce his skin. The narrator stops the story.
Time essentially freezes mid-swing.
It's crazy. The narrator steps out from behind the curtain, completely breaks the fourth wall, and starts giving the reader a literature lecture.
Literature lecture.
Right in the middle of a murder. The text explicitly lists literary techniques. The narrator says, books have bright strokes, dark strokes, hidden strokes, remembering strokes, branching strokes, and what is happening right now is an astonishing stroke.
The specific term used in the text is jingrenbi, which translates to a stroke of the pen that shocks or astonishes the reader.
It's incredibly audacious. And then, immediately after announcing this astonishing stroke, the scene resumes. But the sword doesn't hit Yang Ming.
Nope.
Instead, out of nowhere, a giant, solid iron club smashes into the apprentice's head, crushing his skull instantly.
Talk about an astonishing stroke.
Right. We suddenly find out that Lu Tong, the giant, foolish simpleton who caused this whole mess by running off in the first place, has vaulted over an 8-foot wall and crushed the executioner.
To truly appreciate the metafictional brilliance of this moment, we have to look at the history of the novel format in Ming and Qing dynasty China.
Where did it come from?
Well, these vernacular novels evolved from the oral traditions of tea-house storytellers.
Ah, so the narrator isn't just an omniscient voice. They are playing the role of a performer on a stage.
Precisely. The narrator is a distinct persona. When a storyteller in a tea house had the audience on the edge of their seats, when the metaphorical sword was descending, they would often pause.
To build the suspense.
Yes, they might take a sip of tea or bang a wooden block on the table to stretch that tension to its absolute limit.
That's amazing.
By cataloging their own literary devices mid-murder, the author is winking at you. It signals you are in the hands of a master storyteller. I know exactly how tense you are, I know exactly what you expect to happen, and I am actively choosing to subvert it to show you my control over the narrative machinery.
It is a massive flex by the author. But wait, because the whiplash isn't over, it gets even crazier.
It really does.
We just had a guy's rotten heart ripped out. We just had another guy's head smashed in with an iron club. The action is frantic, the rescue is underway. But instead of continuing the fight, the text halts again.
Again.
To give us a flashback to explain what Lu Ton was doing for the past hour.
And the flashback is the polar opposite of a dark Taoist ritual. It is a complete genre shift.
Totally. We flash back to the bottom of the mountain. Lu Tong is waiting for his friends. He's 9 feet tall, looks absolutely terrifying. And he gets hungry.
Naturally.
A poor street vendor walks by pushing a cart of steamed buns. Lu Tong demands buns, and the vendor is terrified, thinking he's being robbed by a mountain bandit.
Which is a reasonable assumption.
Very reasonable. But Lu Tong, who has the literal mind of a child, doesn't rob him. He overpays the man with a massive silver ingot. He pays for a few buns with enough money to probably buy the guy's whole cart and his house.
This brief interaction is crucial. It firmly establishes his fundamental nature to the reader. He's physically intimidating, capable of crushing skulls, but he is completely innocent and generously pure-hearted.
He's just a big kid.
He has no concept of money or intimidation.
Right. And then he sits down on a rock to eat his incredibly expensive buns. But it's a windy day on the mountain.
And this is where it gets funny.
The wind dries out the skin of the steamed buns, causing the dough to crack open. Lu Tong, being a simpleton, looks at the cracked buns, sees the curved lines, and thinks the buns are smiling at him.
It's so absurd.
So he starts having a heated conversation with his food. He points at a bun and says, oh, you're laughing at me. You think this is funny. I'm going to eat the laughing ones first. And he just sits there having a feud with his lunch.
The tonal whiplash here is just extraordinary. Think about the sequence of images the reader has just consumed.
It's insane.
We went from a literal rotten heart venting toxic gas to a metafictional lecture on literary theory to a 9-foot-tall giant having an argument with a pastry because he thinks it's mocking him.
It's pure cartoon logic. It's an animistic view of the world. Like a child sees a face in the clouds, Lu Tong sees a mocking smile on a cracked, steamed bun.
It is brilliant.
I have to say, the cinematic timing of this is a masterclass in tension manipulation. It reminds me of modern directors like Quentin Tarantino or the Coen brothers who love to intercut a horrifically violent climax with something utterly mundane or darkly comedic.
That is a very astute comparison.
You're holding your breath because of the extreme danger, and then you burst out laughing at the absurdity. And the release of that tension actually makes the next moment of violence feel even sharper.
The pacing mechanism is identical.
Yeah.
But in this text, it serves a much deeper thematic purpose than just shock value.
What's the deeper purpose?
This juxtaposition prevents the story from becoming relentlessly, exhaustingly bleak. But more importantly, it acts as a stark character foil.
Okay, a foil to who?
Think about the direct contrast the author just forced upon us. 10 paragraphs ago, we saw Zhang Rong's heart. Physically rotten, full of malice, scheming, dark, and utterly corrupt.
Yeah.
And immediately after, we're granted access to Lu Tong's mind. A mind so innocent, so devoid of guile, that he believes bread has the capacity to laugh at him. We are shown absolute, terminal corruption, followed instantly by absolute childlike purity.
It's brilliant. The laughing buns aren't just a throwaway joke. They are narrative proof that Lu Tong's soul is completely uncorrupted.
Exactly.
Which makes him the perfect, karmically appropriate person to interrupt a dark ritual fueled by corruption.
He's the antidote.
But of course, because this story loves to play with our emotions, that exact same childlike innocence that just saved the day is about to doom him again.
Yes. The rescue is extremely short-lived. The triumph lasts exactly as long as it takes the villain to regroup.
So Lu Tong has smashed the apprentice, but Hua Qingfeng, the master sorcerer, is still standing there and he is furious.
He's not just going to let this happen.
Right. He points a finger, recites an incantation, and uses his magic to instantly paralyze Lu Tong. The giant freezes. Then the Taoist draws his own sword, walks up to Lu Tong, and slashes him right across the neck with a killing blow. But instead of blood spraying everywhere, the blade just leaves a faint white mark on Lu Tong's skin.
Lu Tong, as it turns out, is physically invulnerable to bladed weapons.
Lu Tong just laughs in the villain's face. He proudly announces to the entire courtyard that he possesses the Golden Bell Shield, a martial arts technique that makes him completely impervious to blades.
He's very proud of it.
He's completely unbothered by the guy trying to decapitate him.
The trope of the Golden Bell Shield, or the iron cloth shirt, is a cornerstone of Chinese martial arts folklore, particularly associated with Shaolin training.
How did they supposedly get it?
It represents the absolute pinnacle of physical conditioning, combined with ki cultivation. Practitioners theoretically train by striking themselves with wood, then stone, then iron, while controlling their breath to harden their skin into armor.
It's the fantasy of being an indestructible tank.
It is, but structurally, within folklore globally, absolute physical invulnerability almost always comes with a hidden, fatal flaw: Achilles' heel. Think of Siegfried's back in the Nibelungen Light, where the dragon blood didn't touch him because of a linden leaf. In Chinese martial arts fiction, this weak point is often called the Kimen, or door of life.
So everyone has a weak spot.
It is a universal narrative rule. If a character cannot be cut by a sword, they must be vulnerable to something else, or else the story loses all tension.
And the villain, Hua Qingfeng, being a master of arcane arts, undoubtedly knows this rule. But he doesn't know what Lu Tong's specific weakness is.
No, he doesn't.
But Lu Tong is going to tell him.
Of course he is.
Because, as the text explicitly reminds us again, Lu Tong is a hunter and fool, a simpleton. He is so proud of himself, so eager to show off, and so completely lacking in an internal filter that he gleefully brags to the villain trying to kill him.
It's so hard to read.
He literally shouts, "I have the Golden Bell Shield, but I'm not going to tell you that fire, being buried alive in boiling water can hurt me. I won't tell you."
It's tragically, painfully hilarious.
It's the reverse villain monologue. We all know the trope where the bad guy gives away his master plan to James Bond right before he tries to kill him.
Right.
Here, the hero is giving away his own security passwords to the hacker. It's like saying, my bank account is totally secure, my password is my dog's name, but I'm not going to tell you my dog's name is Buster, so you'll never guess.
And the Taoist, who is cold, calculating, and ruthless, doesn't hesitate for a microsecond.
He doesn't laugh.
No. He immediately orders his surviving servants to fetch massive piles of firewood to burn the giant alive.
Which prompts Yang Ming, who is still tied to the stake watching this entire disaster unfold, to deliver one of the most heartbreaking resonant lines in the excerpt. He looks at his giant friend and laments that Lu Tong has a meat-eye Buddha heart.
Meat-eye Buddha heart, Ruyan Foken. I am so glad you highlighted this phrase because it's a profound philosophical concept to unpack.
That's a beautiful phrase.
And it perfectly encapsulates the tragedy of this scene. Let's break it down. The Buddha heart refers to Lu Tong's pure, compassionate, uncorrupted inner nature.
Right?
He rushed up a dangerous mountain alone to save his friends. He generously overpaid a poor vendor. He cannot hold malice. He is spiritually pure.
He is fundamentally a good person.
The best of them. But the meat eyes, Ruyan, refer to the eyes of a mortal, bound by the physical flesh.
Meat eyes.
In Buddhist terminology, it contrasts with the Dharma eye, or the Buddha eye, which can see truth in karmic reality. Having meat eyes means he lacks insight, wisdom, and practical discernment.
He's blind to the real world.
He cannot see through deception. He cannot perceive malice in others until they are literally swinging a sword at him. And most tragically, he is entirely blind to his own stupidity. He has the pure, glowing heart of a deity, but the foolish, unseeing, blundering eyes of the most basic mortal.
His lack of a filter, his absolute innocence, is his greatest charm. It's what makes him a lovable character when he's arguing with bread. But it is also his fatal weakness. In a world that is populated by people like Hua Qingfeng and the spy Zhong Rong, the real world, or at least the world of this martial arts story, is cunning. And purity alone is not a defense against cunning.
In fact, the text argues that without wisdom, that purity becomes a lethal liability.
Wow.
His innocence becomes the very weapon that the villain easily turns against him. It raises a fascinating philosophical question about the nature of goodness.
Which is?
Is it enough to just have a pure heart if you lack the practical wisdom to protect that goodness from being exploited? The text seems to suggest that the meat-eye Buddha heart is a tragic condition. It will get you killed.
It's a devastating realization for the reader. You're watching this giant, lovable guy who was just providing comedic relief now about to be burned at the stake entirely because he couldn't stop himself from boasting.
It's a brutal turnaround.
And for those of you listening, hanging on the edge of your seat, we can't leave you completely hanging on the plot.
No, that wouldn't be fair.
Just as the firewood is brought out, just as Lu Tong is about to be burned alive for his own stupidity, a booming voice echoes from outside the courtyard walls.
Whoa, monk.
It is the voice of the legendary monk Jigong, announcing that he has finally arrived to save his foolish disciples.
The very authority figure whose warning they ignored at the beginning of the story has now become their final, desperately needed hope. The karmic loop closes. They ran from his advice, and they ran right back into his salvation.